The idea that 5 people are strong enough to defeat a titan like Garp is absurd. And you know what? This is even more crazy if we look at the subject from the point of view of the people inside One Piece world, because they believe Garp single-handedly took down the Rock's pirates and then later on captured Roger. So in their eyes, Garp is the person who ended 2 eras of piracy. But again, I'm gonna make a case for 5 people who can take down Garp in a realistic fight. Some of them might be weaker than him, some of them might be stronger than him, we're gonna see. And I'm gonna start with just the most obvious one. Gold D Roger. Narratively speaking, we all respect Garp because he was a person able to corner Roger and fought to death against Roger many times. So technically speaking, the higher hype belongs to Roger. And in fact, most of you agree with me when I put him above Garp. According to a poll with over 60,000 voters, a shocking 89% of people have Roger over Garp. 70% of whom assume it is an extreme difficulty fight in his favor, while 90% of people believe that Roger is 1 tier above Garp. And narratively speaking, there is no clear implication that Garp can defeat Roger in a fight. Now you might argue, since Roger is using a supreme blade called Ace, and Garp is using his bare hands, Garp might be stronger. And technically, this can be true. But again, why should we ignore swords? Like, who the hell power scaled Mihawk while ignoring his blade? A blade is part of your power. A devil fruit is part of your power. These are not necessarily something that you train to earn, but you are using them in a fight, so they matter. And this video is about who can beat Garp in a fight, and not technically who is stronger than Garp. So yes, there is an acknowledgeable case for Garp being stronger than Roger, but in a fight, Roger gonna win. And now let's talk about the second person who is capable of defeating Garp in a fight. And that person is obviously Roxy Xebec. Based on every hype and narrative that we received from Xebec, he might be the strongest entity in the world of One Piece who's born for like latest centuries. Based on Sengoku's statement, a marine, a best friend of Garp, Roxy Xebec is the strongest and greatest rival of Roger, meaning this is a direct advantage for Xebec over Whitebeard and Garp, other 2 rivals of Roger. Once again, public agrees with me. According to a poll with over 70,000 participants, 84% of people believe that Xebec is indeed stronger than Garp. Even though Roger had 89% of the poll in his favor, this time around 65% of people believe that Xebec is in another level compared to Garp, which makes him basically the only pirate ever who can put Garp in a shame in a poll. Like, we need to acknowledge that One Piece community respect old generation too much. Even right now, Fleet Admiral Akainu, the only character in the story who defeated another top tier in a fair battle, needs to struggle to prove that I am above an old Garp, something that I believe it's 100% the case, but community of One Piece shows no mercy to Akainu. And yet the same community believes that Xebec is that much stronger, and the sad news is, he might be. Like, there is no real limitation to how far the ceiling of Xebec might go. I hope it's not too much. The third more rational option for the people who can defeat Garp in a fight is the man himself, Goatbeard. While Garp and Whitebeard both were direct rivals of Roger, therefore they should be around the same level, Whitebeard have some statement and powers in his favor. Garp himself hailed Whitebeard as the king of seas, which is Garp admitting that that dude might be above me. Sengoku, again, best friend of Garp, the person who is 100% aware of Garp power level and Whitebeard power level, is saying that Whitebeard is the world's strongest man. Now, Sengoku have no idea how sick Whitebeard is, so his statement is not true at the moment, but I assume in the eyes of Prime Sengoku, a Prime Whitebeard was the world's strongest man, even above Roger. Of course, Whitebeard has the power to destroy the world, and technically and objectively speaking, I believe old and sick Whitebeard showed us a better performance than old Garp, who wasn't ill. Now, this is very debatable, but yeah, I do believe that old Whitebeard did better on screen. And it is really difficult for anybody to defeat Whitebeard because he is perfect at everything. He has very good hockey, perhaps the best physical power, a supreme blade, one of the strongest devil fruits. He is perfect in every single territory of fight. So defeating him might be even hard for people who are stronger than him. Like, Whitebeard rejected the idea of him being an underling to Zebek. Like, in the eyes of Whitebeard, he himself could have been above Zebek. But again, vast majority of One Piece community believes that Whitebeard is above Garp. But the gap between them is definitely smaller compared to Roger and Zebek. And again, no real part of narration of One Piece suggests the idea that Garp was superior to Whitebeard. If we take Ace novel to be canon, Whitebeard was the only man who ever gave an equal fight to Roger based on canon Ace novel. So either Garp never had the opportunity of going toe-to-toe without other people interrupting him, or he's stronger than Roger, or he's weaker than Roger. This is like the three possible outcomes because they never fought equally. On the other hand, there is one advantage for Garp, and that's God Valley. Because in God Valley, Garp was a more predominant figure compared to Whitebeard. In fact, the leaders of that war were Roger, Garp, and Garling. Now, if we want to put Garp above Whitebeard, we have to do the same for Garling, which I don't think is the case. And at number 4, we have the son of Garp, Dragon, which is a very tricky subject. I mean, Prime Garp versus Prime Zebek versus Prime Whitebeard versus Prime Roger, all of them probably happened. But Prime Garp fighting Prime Dragon, physically speaking, can never realistically happen. But assuming the laws of time and space broke and this scenario could have happened, Prime Garp is still father of Prime Dragon. Now, narratively speaking, there is a chance for the new generation to surpass the old generation, meaning Dragon might actually be stronger than his father as of now. Now, personally, I believe since Dragon chose the path of peace, he had fewer one-on-one battles, fewer wars. He was a leader and not a fighter. And this prevented him to surpass Garp. I mean, the idea of Dragon surpassing Garp should have been logical, but I believe the personality of Dragon and how he hated pointless battles prevented him from being a stronger fighter. But we need him to be a great leader, not a great fighter. He's the leader of the next generation of the world, not the strongest fighter. I'm not entirely sure if Dragon is stronger than Garp or have a good matchup against him, but he have one advantage. He is the son of Garp, and as we witnessed during the Battle of Marineford, Garp is an extremely emotional person. When Ace died, when Luffy went and faced up against him, he let his emotion get the best of him. So technically speaking, the very same thing is going to happen against Dragon. And Dragon might be a more brutal and precise person, because Dragon, when he goes to a battle, he goes there to win. Now, we don't know enough about Dragon. Maybe he has a soft spot as well. Maybe this battle is never going to end. But as far as facts and known information goes, Garp, at some point during this battle, gonna let his guard down. And that's the reason. Dragon's not gonna kill him, of course, but him having the emotion of a father makes him lose this battle. And in fact, the same scenario can be said about Luffy, so I'm gonna have him special number 4, because Nika Luffy as of now is strong enough to have a relatively good, like 40% chance of defeating Garp in a battle. If Garp let his guard down because he is just too emotional toward Luffy, the same result's gonna happen. So right now, Karen's Luffy and Karen Dragon, in my opinion, are 100% not as strong as Prime Garp. But Prime Garp, being like the father and grandfather, his emotion is gonna get the best of him, and that's why Dragon and Luffy gonna have the 4th spot. Now let's talk about honorable mentions, and of course, I have perhaps the strongest living character in One Piece world, Shanks. Shanks, to me, have like a 45 to 49% chance of defeating Garp in a fair battle. He's a person who might be on an equal footing with Roger, therefore an equal footing to Garp. He has the best, by far, the best on-screen hockey, and in fact the best on-screen hype as well. And this idea that nobody from the greatest generation of piracy can defeat Garp is a bit absurd to me, so if anybody gonna have a chance, it's Shanks. And the next option to me is Prime Sengoku. Now, I don't think Prime Sengoku is on an equal level to Garp, but he has the advantage of perfectly knowing the fighter style of Garp. The emotion arguments that helped Dragon and Luffy to win against Garp in our imaginary scenario might come in handy for Sengoku as well, because Sengoku is a much more brutal fighter, I assume, while Garp always have a soft spot. Once again, let's take a look at what the public said. Only 9% of people believe that Sengoku has any chance against Garp, which is logical, but 72% of people believe that this is gonna be an extremely difficult fight. So I'm not saying that Sengoku is necessarily stronger than everybody else that I didn't mention in this video, but he has a better chance of defeating Garp, and specifically Garp. And now, let's go to the most controversial debates that we're gonna have in this video. I believe that Garp is gonna lose the fight to Kaido. And I'm basically going up against vast majority of the community. Only 18% of people believe that Kaido can defeat Garp. And again, you can make a good case for Garp being superior to Kaido, because Kaido himself said that the person with the greater haki always win the battle. And if I have to choose between the haki of Prime Garp and... In fact, I would say that the haki of old Garp was better than Kaido. But again, the very fact that old Garp has a better haki, and most of us will agree that old Garp will lose to Kaido, is my reason for saying that necessary having better haki doesn't always mean that you can defeat Kaido. Personally, I believe that nobody in the story of One Piece, other than Joy Boy himself, is stronger than Kaido. He is a Oni who can heal himself immediately with dragon capabilities and 3 types of haki. And Oda in SBS called his weapon legendary. If you don't have advanced armament haki, you can't even scar his eyeball. And only with advanced Conqueror haki, you can leave a scar on him. Garp wasn't in the top 5 of Kaido, and I think there is a reason for that. As I said, nobody, logically speaking, is stronger than Kaido, because he have every type of power, and nobody in One Piece world have every type of power. But people who can land many permanent scar on his body have a real chance of defeating him. Even 62% of you guys believe that Garp gonna have an extremely difficult fight. But problem is, almost everything that Garp to Kaido, Kaido can heal. But the other way around doesn't work the same. Even hitting Kaido from inside doesn't work, because Law did that. Law attacked Kaido from inside organ, but Kaido healed. Unless you can leave a permanent scar on the body of Kaido, Kaido is gonna keep getting better and better and better. So in a long-term fight, Garp, while having a good chance, might lose this battle because of the terrible matchup. And it is very weird to say Garp can throw Kaido around, because Kaido might even be physically stronger than him, and he's a flying dragon. So in terms of versatile fighting and having more powers, Kaido has the upper hand, not Garp. If Garp was good at using any type of very strong blades, he had a legitimate chance of killing Kaido, just as Roger and Whitebeard and Zebek and Shanks have. But because matchup matters in a fight, and as I explained, Garp cannot permanently scar Kaido. As the fight goes on, the upper hand will go to Kaido. And that's the reason, because of the matchup, Garp cannot defeat Kaido. Now, statistically, 80% of you guys are gonna disagree with me, and I'm fine with that. I tried my best to make an argument that why I believe Kaido will win this specific fight, but even if you disagree, that's your right. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I see you all beautiful people at Laugh Tale.